Hey everyone, back for another Board Game Co. preview. I'm Devin, and this is Temple Raider from Jack's Wilds Games, another game that's going to take about 30 minutes for 2 to 4 players. I've got it set up on the top cam here for a 3-player game, so I can show you a little bit about what's going on. It's going to involve some dice rolling, some dice allocation, some relic moving, and then it's also going to be a little bit of card play and a little bit of clever strategy in terms of denying your opponents from getting what they need. This is a title in which the point of the game, the goal of winning, is to get all of your relics, which start off on the upper tier here, down 3 full movements below these lower tiers and into your camp, into your area. There are some ultra rooms and some storage rooms that you can use as well, but as soon as the first person gets all 10 of their relics down into their player board area, they win the game. Let's look a little bit at how you get there. So, depending on the player count that you have, you've got everybody's player boards. You've got locations where you can move your altars once they are down there, or your relics once they get down there, and then you've also got some cards. On your turn, you're going to be rolling dice. Whenever you're playing with 2 characters, you're just going to be rolling 3. For 3 people, you add a fourth dice in, and then whenever you have your 4th and final player, you will add a 5th and final dice. On your turn, you roll your dice, and you get to pick what combination of 2 dice you want. As you can see on people's pedestals there's space for 2 dice. Now, there are a couple different options you can do. If I take this 5 and this 4, that can be either me moving down my 5 relic and my 4 relic, or I could leave both of those up there and I could combine this to be my 9 relic and I could move that down. However, as I mentioned the cards previously, every player has a deck of cards. If you're ever able to activate those cards by either individually getting those numbers, you could instead activate those cards and see what happens. So for example, if I took this 4 and this 5, I could activate the 5, and then with the 4, I could go over here and trigger this card. Now this allows me to trigger 2 eruptions and also move my smallest relic. Eruptions are how you deal with your opponent's relics as long as they are on lava spots. So if this relic on the 3 spot was down here in this red location, and if the yellow one on the 8 spot was down in this red location, if I was triggering 2 eruptions using the 4 dice to match my 4 here, I would be able to bring both of these relics back up, preventing or slowing down their path to victory, while also moving my smallest relic, which right now, at the beginning of the game, is my number 1 relic. That was all done just by activating this 4 card and using it as a card rather than moving the relic of the same number. And then, again, there are other options available to you. I could combine it for the 9, but I could also take this 4 and this 1. If I do ever take 2 dice that show lava like that, that actually acts as an eruption in its own. So if an opponent has one of their relics on a lava spot, I could move it back. And then that is outside of just the regular number resolution, either combining these to move my 5 relic, moving my 1 and my 4 relic independently, or trying to activate one of the cards down here, either using 1 or both dice in combination. As soon as I've done that, it's my opponent's turn, and they go. However, each time someone goes, because you're only allocating 2 dice, there's 2 dice left over. At least in a 3-player game. In a 2-player game, there's 1 dice left over, and in a 4-player game, there are 3 dice left over, which means in rotating or clockwise turn order, every player is going to pick one for themselves. So you have some decisions ahead of you. When you are rolling the dice, you're not only picking what dice or relics am I wanting to be activating, what cards might I try to aim for, what relics do I need to move to be in the best position possible, but you're also trying to determine how can you deprive your opponents or your rivals of the best dice that are going to help them out. Maybe it makes sense for me to have this 5 and this 5, but if I do that, even though it's optimal for me, I'm leaving the next player the choice between the 3 and the 1, and maybe their 1 is really close at the bottom and almost able to pop off of the pedestal and come down onto their player board. So it's a little bit of trying to maximize what is useful for you and pushing your relics down the temple here and getting them out of the temple and back to you as the temple is exploding. Think of Indiana Jones when he's running away from that massive boulder, but replace that boulder with a huge lava and volcanic eruption, and you get a little bit of the sense of what's going on thematically in your excursion. So you're desperately trying to flee, and you're trying to make sure that you flee faster with all of the relics instead of your opponents, which seems maybe not the best for your health, but hey, you don't get rich by just leaving all the relics behind. So you need to get all the relics and you need to bring them to the board here. And again, you go through the process, you roll the dice, you pick 2 of the dice, you decide to allocate them and either individually use them for a relic or a card play, or in combination use them for a relic or a card play. If you ever get a 6 and 5 or a 6 and 6 to where you're getting 11 or 12, because you only have a row of 10 relics here, if you ever get 11 or 12, that is a wild. And as a wild, you can go ahead and move any relic that you want. And then additionally, if you invest, this is kind of the last thing I haven't talked about, if you invest in your altar room here on your player board by filling it up with 2 relics once you bring them down and secure them, you actually are able to also move your smallest relic in addition to a wild. And then any relics that you put in the storage room, you can expend any of them at any time that you want over into your camp. And any one that you move, it allows you to add 1 to any dice. So you do have some dice manipulation that is important, because you can do that on your turn, and you can also do that on other players' turn based off of the dice that you end up taking. So even if they're trying to prevent you from getting a certain dice, you can actually still have the option of manipulating it if you have enough relics in your storage room. So there's a little bit of interesting decision between the cards that you have and how valuable they are, the relics that you're trying to move in, because also moving any one relic is not always as valuable. If I could move this 8 down on this spot here, that's a lava spot. So actually, if I move this 9 down here, that's safe because it's not on a lava spot. It can't be moved back after an eruption is triggered. So there is a little bit of a decision space where maybe you have this 8 here, and then maybe you have this 7 here. And if you have the ability to get a 7, you're like, oh, I could save that. But if you're able to get an 8, you could actually bring this relic down, and both of them are within a safe reach, and they can't ever be moved back because of an eruption. It's decisions like that that make this a little bit more of a spatial puzzler than you might expect at first glance, and also in combination with the decks and your player board powers, you have a lot more freedom and player agency to do what you want than you think you do at first glance. This is Temple Raider. It's a quick game, 30 minutes to play, 2 to 4 people. Another title from Jack's Wild Games. Again, the games that we get in are prototypes. They're not always going to be final, whether they're going to retail or whether they're going to crowdfunding, but we can be sure to get you the appropriate links down below so you can check it out if you want to. If you have any questions, let us know. Thanks for stopping by for another preview. I'll see you next time. Bye.